Yeah, I thought all this cable was over.
Welcome back to the Stanley Street Social live production. Thanks to another little COVID outbreak in Melbourne. I was just saying it's good news that we're back. It's obviously not good news that we're back, because the reason we're not sitting downstairs in the living room is because there's COVID running rampant around Melbourne again. But the good news is that the Ds were flying on Friday. There was no one at the G, but oh my God, they were good.
At Marvel.
At Marvel. Not that it mattered. There was no one there.
Yeah, it's disappointing not to be in the studio, I must say, Alex. I've come accustomed to that studio.
It's not bad, is it? It's not bad.
It's good. No crowd. It was a bit of an interesting feel. To be honest, I didn't even notice it. Which, I mean, I hope the fans that turn up to the game don't take that a bad way, but we were so in the zone, especially early on in that first quarter, that we were in our own little headspace and we didn't even know what was going on in the stands, to be honest. So that certainly has been the case for all the games with no fans. I think I've been maybe 6 games now with no fans, and some of them have been quite eerie, but the Marvel game on Friday night was almost energetic in a way.
We're back live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, I believe. If you do have any questions, put them in the chat. They'll come through. We answer them as we go. We are, of course, talking on the Stanley Street Social podcast, presented by our favourite apparel sponsor, MAP. If you need any new kit, make sure you head to map.cc and you'll be able to pick up some new apparel. We're going to go through the Giro. The Giro wrapped up last night. We're going to go through each team, give them a rating out of 10. What's a pass? What's a pass, Mark? 6, 7?
6.
6?
Yeah.
6 is a pass?
Yeah.
6 is a pass. So in footy, we do a rating out of 7, and 4 is a pass.
Out of 7.
And odd numbers good, because you're just above 50%.
Yeah, right.
No one's ever rated themselves a 7. So you rate yourself, and so do the coaches, and no player that I know of has ever rated themselves a 7.
What about Clayton against the Crows the other week?
No, the Clayton's the biggest. He would have rated himself a 2. There is a story about a GWS player, Brett Thornton, used to play for Carlton as well. Apparently, back in the NEAFL, when the NEAFL wasn't a great standard of football, apparently Brett Thornton took about 15 marks and he rocked into training that next day and gave himself a 7. The coaches gave him a 4, so no one's rated a 7 since.
What criteria do you look at?
There's 4 things under sort of our trademark. It's all trademark. That's the vocabulary. And 4 is you've done your job for the day.
Okay.
Geez, I kept that close to my chest, didn't I?
Yeah.
Don't know how many Brisbane Lion supporters we have that tune into the Stanley Street Social, but they're not finding out anything.
So just quickly, relating it back to the Giro, I'm sure we'll touch on it at some point. Danny Martinez on Saturday night would be a 7.
He would be a 7. Bilbao would be a 7. Caruso would be a 7.
Yep.
The 2 Aussie boys would probably be a 6, maybe a 7 as well.
Strong 6. I'm liking this new scoring system out of 7. Let's run with it.
Okay.
Can you just give your mic a little bit of volume if you can over there, Cambo?
Yeah, sure.
He hasn't been on for a couple of weeks, Alex. He's just getting back used to it.
The software's been in the closet since Tour de France last year.
So, off the top, number 1 team. There was a little bit of hesitation coming into the Giro, but Ineos Grenadiers, do they get a 7? For me, they get a 7. They won the overall. Ganna picked up 2 stages. I think Egan picked up 2 himself as well. Could have they done much more?
I'm pretty sure they won the teams competition as well. Yep. You got that for me there, Alex?
They took the all important teams off Bahrain, who were the only bookies reference pre the start of the tour. So
Yes.
they've taken it all.
Do you think that they were so strong? We talked a little bit about this on the phone, Alex, today. They were too strong that it kind of made the race a little bit predictable and boring. And there was only that one day where Simon Yates looked like he might have got up ahead of steam, but for the rest of it, they were just so strong, and especially that performance from Martinez on Saturday night, and he ended up finishing 6th overall. It was kind of like the tour days of 4 or 5 years ago when they were just dieseling, and it was kind of a little bit boring to watch. Is that harsh?
No, it's not harsh, but also Sivakov wasn't even there. Like, imagine if they had another guy. They would have had another GC contender. Not that Martinez could have been his own, a GC contender in his own right. It was a good case for the salary cap guys that love to talk about that topic. But yeah, they were too strong. It was the same as last year with Teo. He had Rowan just there, just fixing every problem or every scenario that he got himself into.
Yeah,
you just want to see. You want to see at one point when Bernal has to bring back a group himself. I think that's what we kind of wanted to see on Saturday night. We wanted to see Bernal have to chase Caruso. But yeah, Martinez was so strong, and so was Castroviejo. Castroviejo surprises me every time he climbs. He's just this Spaniard time trial whiz who somehow can climb. Like it's just a weird sort of concept to think about. But they were super strong. They weren't the highlight team for me. I prefer seeing underdog teams perform, but they certainly were the benchmark team.
Yeah, I agree. And Castroviejo, I think he's super underrated. By the way, some of his performances through the 3 weeks were as good as it gets, really, from a domestic point of view. And he kind of looked like he was the leader on the road too, with no Luke Rowe there. He kind of took that role on. So it's going to be scary to see what sort of team they put out at the Tour de France in 4 or 5 weeks.
I'm guessing it's going to look something like this Criterium team that's out there. And we talked about maybe Sivakov finishing 2nd if he was there. There's a chance in the Criterium that it'll be Thomas and Port 1-2, with maybe even a couple of like Gegenhardt still there. Like that's scary. I don't think I'm even going to watch that. It just seems like it's going to be a well-structured Ineos victory.
Yeah.
Especially with the Slovenians off doing their own thing. Score? What do we give him?
7.
I think it's a 7.
7 out of 7.
Yeah, it's a 7.
7. Very good.
Yep.
Very good. Also, not just those two guys being so strong. Like, it seemed like Ganna and Moscon were just going deep as well into mountainous stages.
If Gianni Moscon didn't crash, he was going really well pre-crash. Then he crashed, and then we didn't see him as much in the front of the peloton. He is in some super form.
Yeah, I could have sworn that maybe a year ago he was going to fall off the face of the earth. Wasn't he back working on a fruit farm or something, trying to just get back in touch with reality, and hadn't had results forever? And then he got a couple of wins in the build up to the Giro, and then, like you said, Max, before his crash, he was absolutely flying. Then after the crash, he was getting used up a little bit earlier. But it's good to see Gianni back at his best.
And one last point before we stop blowing up Ineos's tyres. We also weren't 100% on Ganna before the opening time trial. He was coming into it with a couple of losses. So we weren't swinging in his favour completely, but he sure showed us that he is still the king.
I'm pretty sure I heard Campbell say Tratnik was going to win.
He was active. Your man was active throughout.
He had a good year. We'll get to Bahrain soon because I've got only compliments to say about their team. But Ganna proved me wrong.
I wonder when the last time, just quickly, Alex, someone won a TT having a puncher. I know we got a little bit lucky with Cavagna crashing out, but I guess that's show business.
Yeah. Asia Tour, Citroën.
Let's take home the blue jersey. Is that what it is?
King of the Mountains.
Yeah, they did get that. Lucky they did get that. Otherwise, they were pretty quiet. But yeah,
Couple of breakaways.
I mean, the KOM jersey at the Giro doesn't have quite the same flavour as the Tour, if you will. The jersey's it's blue, kind of just blends in a little bit. Doesn't seem super exciting.
Well, I don't really know. Apart from Albanese, potentially in the early stages, did anyone actually go for it apart from Bouchard?
There was no real narrative around a battle for the jersey, was there?
No.
You know, in the Tour de France, maybe there'll be 3 or 4 guys going for it, and a GC guy might snatch it late, but it just seemed very irrelevant.
Mm.
Yeah, I've never seen something more clear that Ben O'Connor is their man. There's Champersen, who I had in my top 38, my elusive top 38. It actually did not make the TV once.
Well, I think we've probably learned from that O'Connor's going to the Tour de France as a serious rider for this group. You'd hope.
Does the KOM jersey get them a par?
I think it does. Alex.
Oh, you're generous. You are generous.
I think it gets them a 4.
They had a stage win with Vendrame as well. So that's benchmark.
4.
It's a 4. It's a pass. It's for sure a pass.
Albacete Phoenix, a team that I think Max hit the nail on the head in our last podcast. He was talking about we're starting to become their presence is felt outside Van der Poel, and also just starting to become general fans of the team in its own right. It's not just the Van show.
Mm. Yeah, well, they got their stage win with Merlier early in the piece, and then he went home. Caused a few sort of stirs on Twitter. People thought maybe it was a little bit of a fake injury or whatever he had. 2 days later, he's out winning Limburg. So maybe he wasn't as tired as what he was actually saying or whatever the injury was. And they had Vivaka, who was pretty active throughout too. So I think that was a pretty good performance overall by Uppers in Phoenix. And you're right, without Van der Poel there, they're still getting involved and being busy.
Vivaka won points for me when he rode for Caruso Saturday night.
Yeah, I did notice
him and Visconti. Groschnartner unfortunately didn't have the legs to do anything, but it's like a little rebellion against Ineos, and I didn't mind it. So
it was a bit like that, wasn't it?
I'm an Alpes Phoenix fan with what they're doing, and we talked last podcast about the team that could be going to the Tour, which involves Van der Poel and Philipsen. It's exciting. They're going to win more stages.
Score?
They're a 4. They're a 4.
I think a 4 as well. Yeah.
They're a pass mark. They won a stage and they were active.
Yep.
Androni, my man Jeffrey Alexander didn't quite make it through. Unfortunately, pulled out with a crash. But Ponema, the 18-year-old, made it through the Giro at a ripe young age.
Any stats on the last time an 18-year-old finished a Grand Tour, Alex? Have you got those somewhere? I don't reckon there'd be many, in the last 50 years.
No. But they were present in the breakaways. What were you really going to expect from them?
Yeah, unfortunately, our boy Jeffrey, was he out early? Did he fall? Or was he there the whole time?
Yeah, I think he fell about circa stage 10-ish. He was their man. He was the one that was...
I haven't got much for you. On these lads.
No, actually, he made it through to stage 19. So he really wasn't crash hot all tour.
Just seems like they're not quite the same as maybe what they were 5-10 years ago, this group. they normally have like a really exciting Colombian, which your man probably that you mentioned earlier was probably that guy. And they're normally good for a stage. And I think that probably would have been a pass for them getting a stage. So unfortunately, they're probably going to have to cop a 3, maybe a 2.
Well, 3's generous, yeah.
Mm.
I'm thinking 2.
I think 2. 2 will get him through. Astana Premier Tech. I came in with big hopes for them with Vlasov on the GC.
You're world class, Vlasov.
We were talking about. I was talking about him making the transition to world class. I think he stayed where he currently was. He didn't quite make the transition. He was always thereabouts, but it didn't quite make the jump. He didn't pose any threat to Egan.
Would his teammates be relatively disappointed? Look, as Astana were almost the most present team in final groups in that last selection, and Saturday night again they got to the front and he attacked on the descent. He seems to be, just as it's the last teammate's gone, it's time for Vlasov to go, and then he can't go.
Yeah, well, he's quite young though, isn't he? I'm not sure exactly what he is, but he hasn't been around forever competing at this level. So I think a 4th place in the Giro is actually a pretty good result, considering the guys in front of him. I know Caruso's not really like a prolific winner, but he's 33. He's been around the mark for a long time, so a lot of respect has to go to him. So I think 4th, if you had said you'd be 4th at the start of the Giro, he probably would have snapped it up.
He's not old at all. He's 25, which in this current age is kind of like, all right, time to get going. But if we were talking about that 5 years ago, he'd be ripe and ready to run.
Mm.
So what does that mean for Astana, score-wise?
I think Campbell's got me there. I reckon we're being harsh on Vlasov's 4th. I reckon that's pretty impressive. He showed a bit of Tigger as well. He never really let himself go. Like Hugh Carthy did on the last sort of stage, Vlasov was sort of always showing a bit of Tigger.
Yep.
Yeah, I think a 4.5 to a 5. I think it's a good pass, but maybe they realistically wanted a podium. But you're right, he showed good ticker. There was a couple of times there where he got dropped and he limited the damage. It could have really blown out. So I think there's a lot to work with, and maybe one day for Alex, Vlasov will become world class.
Mm. I think that is one good point. Maybe something that when I was thinking about Egan's performance over the last kind of 3 stages, he wasn't unbelievable. He was still probably the top rider there, but he wasn't out of control, and he spent a lot of time chasing. A lot of time, he always had a teammate with him, but he was always chasing. I think the same point for Vlasov. That's not easy. Like, it seems it's mentally draining when you see someone go up the road, someone on the hunt, someone on the attack. So I don't mind that from Max. Just like Vlasov, he's always given a little bit of grit, showing a bit of hunger to stay in there, even though he was just continually dropping time.
Yeah.
Can we start a petition to have the white jersey competition completely eliminated from any Grand Tour ever again? It's
been a bit ruined, hasn't it?
It just, Vlasov was wearing it because obviously Egan was winning. But if like Egan and Pogacar are going to be winning the next few, and there'll be another young fella that comes on soon, I almost rather have seen like an older jersey for like your Carusos and whatnot. But seeing Vlasov wear the white jersey, yeah, just an over 30s jumper and go, geez, that's good on him for getting up that hill.
I don't mind that.
Or make the young riders a proper young riders, sort of like under 21.
Yeah,
because under 25 or whatever it is open slather.
Because I remember when I think it was one of the Yates boys when they were a little bit off GC, his team went to the front to keep the pressure on one of his other. I think it was Menkes who was struggling. Like, it adds something else to the peloton if like there's another team that comes on to defend the white jersey.
Yeah.
But that's getting off
Let's,
topic.
let's
I
get
don't mind. I don't mind that though.
started.
Or as Tom's just mentioned on the YouTube, the over 40s for Valverde and his bros.
It could be Cohen McCourt's only chance of winning something.
Yeah.
No, I'm a bit harsh on Cohen, and now I've worked out he's a listener, so I've got to be careful.
Did we might get on this, but was there any mail that came through the entire Giro?
Well, he was bullish on Ciccone early days. He was very bullish, so, and rightfully so. He was riding really well. He doesn't. I don't think Cohen can see what happens at the front of the group too much. So, and Matteo Mochetti, I say, was second off for the time trial yesterday, so was second last to his Giro d'Italia history.
On to Bahrain. Massive Giro for them after a rough start. Lando out early, but Caruso you didn't see him anywhere, but he was always there. He was always chipping. He was always solid, and then he didn't disappoint. I think he put the icing on the cake with a stage win to finish off his Giro campaign.
I fell in love with Jumbo-Visma when Kruijswijk and Roglic were attacking the Ineos train, and it looked like no one could defeat Ineos. I think it was 2000. When did Bernal win his tour? 2019. And I fell in love with Jumbo-Visma. Bahrain just made me fall in love with them. They were simply great to watch. I did state that I knew Caruso and Bilbao, those type of domestiques that don't like to lose time. So when Mikel did go down, one of them was always going to try and hold on for GC hopes. And some of their domestiques outside of that, in Tratnik, Gino Mader and Maharish, that took the later two, unfortunately, crashing out. But they were doing some amazing work in those first few weeks. And they had 2 stage wins of Caruso and Gino Mader.
Yeah, I think losing Lander on the second or third day or whatever it was, and then to come away with 2 stage wins, second place on the GC is unbelievable. And it's pretty good to see Caruso. What is he, 33? I don't think he's won a race as a pro rider. Is that correct? Something like that. Like he's
not at
been
the top tier.
Not at the top tier anyway. And then to do what he did on Saturday night, they took the bull by the horns. I think I really enjoyed that they took it to him. They put some pressure on Ineos, and in the end, it didn't really make a big difference on the GC, but they got a stage win out of it. And it's really nice to see a guy who's been a domestique for 10, 15 years get a big result like that.
Is he the former BMC rider, Caruso?
Yeah, yep. He
rode.
at BMC.
Did he ride in Cadell's 2008 winning?
I think he was first.
He was one of the Aussies domestiques.
Yeah, he was first year there was 2015. So he
so
was there through that Richie Port phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just not to bang on too much about that stage, but geez, he was like, for him to take the bull by the horns to put himself in the move. It looked like an ad hoc move. It wasn't like a planned strategy from Bahrain. They saw the move go and just put themselves there. But also he put risk on the table to say, well, he could potentially blow up on the last climb by expending too much energy. And out of it, he didn't just secure his second spot on the podium, but he also bagged a stage win. Like, for a guy that had never won a race at the World Tour level, that is so big, and I think was a crowd favourite.
There's so many things in that win. I'm trying to get a little bit of video cut up because I want to show the boys at the club, as much as they probably don't like cycling. I just think there's so much in it. One, to take it, to get on the front foot and attack when you're most likely going to finish second anyway, to still attack. So the mindset stuff, but then also the teamwork stuff. Like Bilbao was unbelievable. And then Caruso, obviously with the gesture going up the hill, giving him a pat on the back. And then when he got over the line, the first person he hugged was Bilbao. And then even some of the press conferences post how he thanks his teammates. It's just I reckon. We watch that much Tom Brady shit at the club that I'm over Tom Brady, and I just want to get a different sport. And this Bahrain stuff that they did, there's so much in all their tour, but especially Saturday night.
Yeah, that's a good point, Alex. He could have easily just sat in the wheels and just managed himself to the finish, but he did risk his podium spot because it was possible to blow up on that climb if he went all in. And I think he had 40 seconds at the bottom, and he finished. I think he might have only lost 10 seconds to Bernal or so on the climb. So, bloody impressive.
He lost 20 seconds when Vlasov did a random attack down the descent. He must have been hating Vlasov for
that. Do they get a 7?
I think so. I think it's a 7.
Max doesn't give these 7s out easily.
Yeah,
we don't know how often these get given away. Obviously, if Clayton's not giving himself a 7 for 40 touches and 3 goals, then yeah, maybe a 6.5 then.
If Tratnik had a beat, who was Contador's boy up that hill that stage, Fortuno, if Tratnik had a won that stage, maybe.
So what is it? Is it a 6.5?
It's a 6.
Well, we don't go points.
I'm more than happy for you to give a 7. That's why
I'm trying to get a feel for this scoring system.
Okay, that's a 6. When I had 9 contested marks on Ben McAvoy in round 4 and kicked a goal, I gave myself a 6.
Okay.
Bardiani.
Visconti was on the TV.
They're all on the TV.
I didn't even know Visconti was still a pro.
He's friends with Caruso. I worked out.
Yeah. Don't really have much to add for these boys.
I think it's a 1 and move on.
Yeah, they were there.
Yep.
They didn't do much. Put themselves in a move. 1. Bora Hansgrove. Peter with a stage win and the purple jersey. Canberra, you don't put much value on the blue jersey, but what do you put on the purple jersey?
A little bit more, but not heaps. Obviously, it was quite important to Sagan. He was going after that one pretty hard. I think he got himself in a little bit of trouble as well because he was doing some blocking or some intimidating or something. I think that was the official words used in the communique. I don't know what that means, intimidation. I don't know how you could do that to the point that you get fined and officially sanctioned, but that's what happened. And a stage win as well. The stage win that they did get was a traditional Bora control all day, all the pressure on Sagan, and he got the job done. So good from them, but GC wise they didn't really feature.
Well, Bookman hurt them. He looked okay, and then crashed on that. Was it the stage where they paused for a little bit? I think Bookman went down.
Yeah.
And then their domestiques were relatively disappointing once that happened to get in a couple of breaks. Fabro and Groschnarder just didn't seem to have the legs.
Yep.
I'm normally someone with a Sprinters jersey who goes, I'm a bit over this, but Gaviria and Chimalai both gave him a run for his money and tried to attack a fair bit. And once we get to UAE at the end of the show, Gaviria really, he entertained me. He didn't make any, didn't get a stage win and didn't get any points that he should have, but he was entertaining.
Just quickly, Alex, before we move on, I think we might have been a little bit stiff on Bardiani, and we did forget that they won a stage at the Giro.
Did they?
Yeah,
Who won?
They won stage 4 with Filippo Fiorelli.
They did not.
Did they?
I must have slept through that one.
No, have I?
No, that was
another.
Joe Dom won stage 4.
Taco
Maybe.
won one.
Are you thinking
That must have
Van?
been
You thinking
previous year.
Vanderhorn
No,
with Wanty, stage 3?
No. I've just got it completely wrong. I just didn't want to do any injustice to the team. This must have been from a previous year. I was just doing a little bit of research and got my wires crossed. Move on.
Wrapping up Bora. Score?
Oh, that's a hard one. 3.
Not even a pass.
I'll give him a 4.
I'm going to give him a 4.
Yeah.
Maybe a 4 for their ability to intimidate at the front of the peloton.
Yeah. What does that mean? No one knows what it means.
They weren't stopping all the breaks. I did notice they were the ones that were marshalling when the break was officially got away or not. Is that what it was about?
But that's what everyone does.
Yeah, I know.
It had to be what it is, but I guess it's almost like a skill of the sport to be able to just shut things down.
Mm.
Maybe Peter was just throwing some language around, as Adam Sims says on the Facebook. Did he say something about his mum? What could you possibly do to intimidate someone that one? Anyway, we could talk about this all day with no information, and we're not going to add much value at all. Cofidis.
Where's Viviani at?
Viviani.
Really?
He's
getting a monster.
He's a tier 2 sprinter.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. The day Sagan won, Viviani got over the climbs. Like, it's just... So he's climbing well, but he's not sprinting well. I don't know what's happened.
Or what's happened?
Yeah. Bike race. Data on that?
Sorry? You lost your Cambo.
Yep, I'm back in the room. Got me?
There you are. You're back now.
Yeah, gotcha.
Hello.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah. Gotcha. We got a comment here. Just continue on that Viviani conversation.
Yeah.
Viviani needs a lead out and confidence. He can't win with Cofidis. I actually think he's been looked after reasonably well. It's not quick step well, but no one does that well. But no. I think in terms of he's been solidly looked after. But he's just not quick. He just hasn't been as quick.
I mean, I'm not sure how much he's getting paid, but it would be north of 1.5 million euro. And to win Cholet Pays de la Loire a 1.1 in March, and that's it. It's not a good return. It's not good enough, and it's been like that for a couple of years. So he's out of contract at the end of this year. He's going to be taking a massive pay cut wherever he goes in 2022, and I don't know. He's in a little bit of a limbo at the moment. Is Viviani?
Cofidis though did get a win with Lafay, which was a nice tick for them, I feel.
Yep.
I'm going to give him a 3.
Me too.
I think, 3's accurate. If Viviani winning would have got them a pass mark.
Yep.
Just, get my start list back up. Koenig Quickstep. We've got a question here, Max, just off the top. Max from Kieran on Facebook. Are you going to apologise for assassinating Remco in the last podcast, where he gave him the kiss of death that night he blew to pieces and the next day he pulled out?
I didn't realise Remco was a listener to the Stanley Street Social, but to be fair, it was an educated guess. He was starting to go slowly backwards. I didn't think he was going to lose 25 minutes. And I also called Roman Bardet for the stage win and got second. So it wasn't a bad night for predictions for me. I wish you had me on Saturday night. I was holding my tongue for this. I should have said it in Bahrain. So I won two bets for the whole Giro, to tell you. Didn't put many on. I was about 2 from 7. I got one of Caleb Ewan's 2 stages, and I got Caruso on stage 20. which
Ooh.
is this smile has been on my face since Saturday night. So my predictions weren't too bad, but yeah, sorry to Remco. I was a bit sceptical of him pre-race, and if only Almeida didn't lose that time at the start. I mean, what would have been for Almeida? They didn't get a stage win, Quick-Step. That's the first time, I think, for a long time I haven't seen Quick-Step win a stage.
Yeah, I mean, Almeida was absolutely flying in the third week, wasn't he? What did he do? The TT last night, he was fifth in the TT, 27 seconds behind Garner. And the way he was climbing is probably the third best climber in the third week. So I don't know. I'm sure if they had their time again, they would have given him the leadership. But I mean, looking back, was Remco ever really going to be able to go deep 3 weeks, crashing out like he did in October, not racing since then, being 20, first Grand Tour? I mean, when you look back at all of these facts, it was pretty far-fetched, I would have thought.
It was wild, actually. It seems ridiculous that we were actually talking about it. What on earth were we thinking?
Well, we weren't really on him, were we? I don't think any of us had him in our top 3 for a start.
No, but we were talking about him like, featuring. I think the reason we were talking about him was that Sportsbet had him at equal GC odds for to win the overall.
I couldn't believe it when I saw that.
But yeah, I think Almeida talked with his performances back to Patrick at home, who's putting all his money on Remco, and just went, "You should have been backing me." Even that stage that Yates won, he was flying up that climb towards the end. Super TT. Almeida was good.
They can't be that grumpy with him. There was talks about a bit of unrest, and Adam Sims does say that he is going somewhere. And there is some unrest with Almeida potentially leaving the team, but they all rode for him in the last week. James Knox was burying himself to get him to get the peloton moving. So I don't know what happened there. They've had a genuine miss. I put Almeida ahead of Evan Pole in my top 38. And yeah, if he just didn't, he lost time in the first. I think Quick-Step made their mind up when Almeida lost 4 minutes in one of the first hill stages.
Also,
quickly,
on the stage win too, Cavagna, if he had have taken that left-hander and not just straight-lined it into the barrier, they would have got their stage win.
Yeah. Just also something, Alex, that we talk about often here. We don't really like teams going in with this whole 2-leader situation because it just doesn't provide a clear-cut plan. Do you think maybe there's a little bit in this that it does pay perhaps to go in with 2 leaders, especially for the first week, given that if Almeida didn't lose time early, going in with the mindset that, I'm not on GC, I can just lose a little bit of time here and there, it could have been a different story for them. Maybe he could have jagged the podium.
Especially in the Giro where you see these massive time gaps. But no, I don't think so. I think you just don't go in 100% for a 21-year-old that hasn't raced in 6 months.
Yep, that's a good way of putting it.
But
his hindsight's great, isn't it?
Yeah,
isn't it? It's the best.
We seem so intelligent coming out the back of the Giro.
I still remember us talking a couple of weeks ago, going, "Geez, Remco, yeah, he's looking good. He's looking good."
No, but I think we talked about this at the start. Bike Exchange's squad, I really enjoyed it. We'll get to them at the end, but that all in for Yates. So what did De Koenig get?
It's a 3. It's a 3 for me.
It is a 3. They got high expectations.
Yep.
Yep.
Education Nippo. Hugh Carthy on the GC.
Yeah, I had Carthy as my slider in the pre-show. I had him around 15th, and if you take out the injuries that were in that top 15, I think he finishes 9th on that list anyway. And I just wasn't a fan of the form he was bringing in. And he was super disciplined. Their best rider of their squad was Betty Ol. Apart from TJ Van Garden, he was super. Still manages to never get on TV. I love him as a rider. What a domestique. He doesn't help one bit. No, sorry, I'm being harsh on TJ. Bettiol was good, stage win, but Hugh Carthy was disappointing.
Hang on, Max. Hang on. TJ finished the Giro and
Yeah,
was
finished
there.
the whole race. He tried to get in the break in stage 20.
I didn't even know he was there.
They said, Keynote said on the commentary that Van Garden's looking to get in the break, maybe to be a domestique help for Carthy later in the stage. He would not have been much help.
Yeah, wow.
They were good. I think as a team, they were together. They had a lot of guys there when it mattered, but Carthy just didn't have it when it mattered. When it really mattered. Is a top 10 good enough for them? I don't know, maybe, but I think he's a rider that can challenge for the podium in the future. Hugh Carthy, I really do. I think he's a super climber, and just a couple of times when he lost time, he just seemed to really lose time and blow up and lose 1 or 2 minutes instead of that 30 to 40 seconds, which Vlasov managed to do. He managed to limit the losses, but Carthy, he blew up a couple of times.
I'm not off Carthy. I think he can do something in the future, but I just had a feeling it wasn't going to be this Giro.
Yeah.
What does that get them?
They get a 4. Yeah, Bettiol was super.
Yeah, Bettiol gets them over the line.
Elio, is that how you say it?
Eola?
Eola, even?
Yeah.
Found out this tour that it's Alberto's squad,
Mm-hmm.
as he was prancing around social media, making it all about Alberto.
Yeah.
It
got traction though. It helped. It worked, didn't it?
It did work. But Fortunato, stage win. You can't ask for much more than that.
On
Up
the
the
Zoncolan.
on the Zoncolan too.
In the minor team fight, in the teams that aren't World Tour teams, these guys were the clear winners. And I think they're almost going to get a 6 from me.
Ooh,
6.
Fortunato stage win, and then he hung around on GC for a bit till the end.
yeah. I mean,
He was in the
16th in the GC.
Yeah, so he slid a little bit late. His time trial was horrible at the end. And Albanese wore the polka dot, not the polka dot, what jumper do they call it, the blue jersey early, and was in some stages. Maybe not a 6. I'm just talking expectation. It's like if Charlie Spargo was best on ground and kicked 5 for us. Like expectation be what they're going to get. I thought they were the minor team. What are they called? Pro teams?
Yeah. Pro
World
now.
I don't know. Used to be Pro Conti.
Mm-hmm.
But also just looking at this, the Pro Conti teams are pretty good. Bonte got a stage. These guys got a stage.
Yeah.
Albacete Phoenix got a stage. In Cambo's mine, Barniani got a stage. Like, it was pretty good performance from them.
I'm going to give him a 5, just considering you're right, Max. The expectations, we were ragging on them at the start. We didn't know who this team was. We'd never heard of them. And then they go and win a stage up the Zoncolan. So I'm going to give them a 5.
When my favourite rider of all time, George Bennett, was getting dropped early on, Fortunato was just hanging on to this group of 10 riders going up the hill. And he surprised me. Fetch Wineco's giving me a bit of feedback. I might bring it back to a 5.
Alex, what are you giving them?
I think a 6. I think I'm gonna start with where Max. Like for that team, for that squad, relative.
Yep.
It's
always going to be relative.
It's massive.
Yep.
That's a massive. Groupama FTJ.
We were dipping in on them on the pre-show in a big way, and I think for them to wear the pink jersey, and to make an impact on the race, I guess is a big pass for them. So I'm happy to give them a 4. I am happy to give them a 4, just considering that they were in the pink jersey, and that's enough.
I said this in the last podcast. I'm a relatively cycling nerd and getting more and more. And before this Giro, I knew almost every rider that rode it. I did not ever hear of this fella that wore the pink jersey. He has come out of nowhere.
Yep.
Volta?
Valita, is it? Volta, yeah. Attila
And
Volta.
he hung on. He hung on. Once he lost the jersey, he wanted to stick around and try and get a top 10 GC for a bit there as well. He got found out late, but and then they rode for him as well. I was impressed, but they did nothing. In the end, they wore the pink jersey for a couple of days.
Is that enough for a pass in your eyes?
Is that a pass?
It's a pass. It's a 4.
Yeah.
If you have a look at their start list, and you were doing a market, they would be $1.50 to get under 4, and they've managed to get themselves to a 4.
Just scrape in. Wanty Group. Stage with Van der Horn. Massive start.
Oh.
Massive start.
Good.
Massive
that was
start.
a good win, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Takes the pressure right off. That was a mighty good victory from the breakaway. I really enjoyed that.
Does that get them?
They were impressive. Hermans and Pasqualen were present in a lot of things.
He was active. Your man, Pasqualon.
He was. He finished. I did put him in my sprinters list, and he was in the points. I think he came like 8th or something.
Yeah.
Disappointing Jan Hurt. I think he finished. I'm pretty sure he finished. I heard his name called late.
He did. Yep, he finished.
There were 5.
Pasqualin was not bad on stage 7 that Caleb Ewan won. That was a messy finale made for the Italians. Cimolai, Moschetti, Pasqualin all in the top 5.
Jeez, you just know that was a messy sprint.
Yeah.
Taramay was top 10 GC for the first 2 weeks, if you remember that. Then obviously fell away, but I'm going 5.
I think so. I think a 5 as well. Just considering the expectations for them to get a stage is massive.
Yep, I agree. I'm going to have to let you two run the next one while I just run a little bit of a tech issue on my end. I'm running out of battery, and for some reason my charge isn't going on. So I'm just going to drop out while you two cover Israel.
Well, it's an interesting one, Alex. Is Israel? I don't know if they're going to be a 4 or a 5, Campbell. I'm sorry, a 5 or a 3. I don't think they're a 4. They're a 5 or a 3.
It's either hard and fast or not at all.
Well, they wore the pink jersey again, so how much do we put into that?
Mm.
And then Dan Martin somehow got himself into the top 10 after looking not great in the first 2 weeks.
And he also won a stage. He also won a stage as well.
Yeah, Cimolai and Bevan were a little bit disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little bit bullish on Martin at the start. I think, if you remember, I had him in my overall podium. I had him for 3rd. And I think his form was there, but he just had that one day when it was that 5-degree day that was shortened, that he obviously suffered a lot in the cold and lost a bucket load of time. If it wasn't for that, I think he might have been a little bit more relative on the GC. But I think him getting a stage, wearing a little bit of the pink jersey with DeMarchi, and then also with Martin finishing top 10, albeit at 18 minutes, I think I'd probably be happy to give them the 5.
Yeah, he had a bad gravel day. Him and Formolo that was when they got dropped from the top 10 GC.
Yeah.
Was an impressive stage win. I was a bit harsh on Cimolai then. Has he come second in the points jersey? I think he
so.
was.
Yeah, he wasn't that far behind in the end.
Yeah, I reckon they're a 5.
Yeah, you're right. So there was the gravel day, and then there was also the wet and cold day where Martin lost most of his time. But I mean, I'd also like to see some data on when the last time the top 10 was separated by 18 minutes.
Yeah, early on, it looked like it was going to be one of the closest Grand Tours going around. That was when Caruso was sitting like 8th or 9th, 40 seconds off. And then GC riders were crashing and falling, and then Dan Martin and Formula were losing time, and then everything just blew out.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's a 5 for me. I'm not sure what Alex will reckon, but I reckon it'd be around the same.
What team you got next year? I got Jumbo Visma on my list. Is that right?
Yeah, let's go for it. What do you reckon?
Well, Athene, good in stage 2 in the time trial, and then they actually were leading the team's race up until the last couple of stages. Ineos then took over because they have those. Foss obviously got a top 10, and then Bennett and Bowman were top 15, I think.
I don't know. I think it was a little bit disappointing for them. I think they'd be lucky to get a 4. I reckon they had some pretty high expectations with Bennett, your man, and I think he would have had some high expectations on himself too. So to finish 9th, they finished 9th, 11th, and 12th on the general, and no stage wins.
Grunewagen, your thoughts on him?
I think it was probably a pass. I mean, he hasn't raced since August last year. Yeah. He was thereabouts in the sprints, but just wasn't the same as what we know he can be like at the Tour de France several years ago. So I think he was all right. Hopefully he can get back to his best and challenge guys like Caleb and Bennett later in the year. But I just think getting 9th, 11th, and 12th on the general, it's hard to get a pass for that.
I did say in the pre-show that they were talking about this Tobias Foss like he was going to be their GC man, and George Bennett wasn't. It turns out he ended up being it because George Bennett was so disappointed in the first week. But he's got a future, Tobias Foss.
Yeah. Well, the winner of the Tour de l'Avenir, which is always a good guide, but Bennett came good in the 3rd week. I think his legs started to come good, but I think he might have been targeting a top 10 as a minimum on the GC.
Yeah. Hey, Alex, we gave Israel a 5, both of us.
A 5 for Dan Martin's efforts in the back end.
And the pink jersey.
And the pink jersey with Damaki.
And second in the points jersey as well.
Are you happy with that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm happy with that.
And now we're on Jumbo.
Well, we're disappointed that Dan Martin dropped off the GC early.
Campbell had him wearing the pink jersey at the final.
I had him for 3rd. And I think the stage when he showed that he did have the legs to do a good GC, but just had a couple of bad days on the gravel and the icy day. But that's Grand Tour show business.
Yep. Lotto Sedal. Is that what we're up to?
We're just finishing on Jumbo.
Yep.
A little bit disappointed with them.
Yeah, we're both giving them a 3, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's on point. George Bennett, a little bit disappointing. Tobias Foss,
maybe even less Campbell.
Solid.
Maybe
I think Tobias Foss, as a top 10, was that his maiden Grand Tour, possibly? I think that's a good performance, but probably not enough to give them, as a squad, what we've expected from them the last couple of years. It's probably not good enough for a pass.
Yep. Lotto Sedal, Caleb Ewan, 2 wins off the top, I think. 2 very good wins and 1 missed opportunity and 1 very poor decision by his mechanic to change his cleats to someone else's boots or something, and in turn making him leave the Giro early.
I'll give him a really good score just based on the fact they downgraded their bus to a Mini Cooper. So I think they only had Harm Van Hook, who was actually, I had tipped him to be somewhere around on GC, and I think he was incredibly disappointing. But I don't know who he was with last. I don't know who the 2 that were left, but
I can't remember
the amount of riders that left that team. It takes will teams continually bring sprinters that are just going to dismantle their tour, especially if you're a Grunewagen type Jumbo where they bring a couple of domestiques for him and he leaves with no stage win. I wonder if teams will continually bring these sprinters who aren't. I know Caleb and Merlier and Grunewagen all say they're injured, but aren't going to be there for the 3 weeks.
It's an interesting one for the Giro organisers, as they're always going to have the Tour after them. They're always going to have their big brothers just a couple of months away. And you can't really do the full Giro and still be flying for the Tour.
They should stick it. They should stick a Team TT in the third week. Put a Team TT in.
What did you think of Eddie Merckx's comments? And do you think Caleb really had to go out of his way to make an apology? Do you think he owed that to anyone, or do you think it was in his complete right to, whether he was injured or whether he was not injured, to pull the pin?
So I sent him a message, and he said he was injured. He started the stage. The mechanic changed his cleats or changed his shoes, or somehow his cleats were incorrect. Got halfway through the stage, knee was starting to get sore, couldn't get it right. What are you going to do? Go through a 200k mountain stage the next day and potentially ruin your year? Or are you going to go 2 stage wins, not bad, let's regroup and go to the Tour and win some more?
Yeah.
But you're also a media, so is he going to be honest to you?
Maybe not. Maybe not anymore.
But even if that was the case, he's in his complete right to pull the pin. No, I mean, we're kind of beyond this. I don't know. We're moving away from this whole respecting the Giro because it's the Giro sort of thing. Like, if they're going to cancel stages because there's a little bit of weather about, is it really like it was 50 years ago? Like,
people are getting fined for throwing around insults and trying to control the bunch.
Personally, I don't think an apology was necessary, but 2 stage wins, I'm going to give them a 4. I think it was a pass, just a pass. To finish with 2 riders, it's not great. 1 rider, whatever it was.
4 as well.
4.
But that's purely because Caleb was a 6.
Yeah.
And the rest of the team, and his lead out were up there as well. But the rest of the team, like Thomas de Gent, he's the example of what he should have done, what Caleb did. I think Thomas de Gent was injured from day 2. 4, just.
4. Movie star.
What a team. They just keep delivering movies. I don't know. They're just a joy to watch.
It's always just confusing. It's so
I can't
confusing.
wait for the Tour. They're talking about Lopez, Valverde, and Mas all being there. It's going to be great.
I just love that Soler, he attacked and then blows up 2 minutes later. Well, hats off for having a crack, but you must know, you're like, I'm not feeling great. I'll just try and hang on, limit my losses. No,
he doesn't do the strategic attack on the hardest bit of the climb. Like he attacks at weird times.
Fetch Wine Co.'s been doing some good work in the chat all day, but I think he's probably produced his best work just now, questioning, did they start the race?
It's a pretty good question. I think with that in mind, we can probably give him a 1.
Yep.
Yeah, well, they're stiff on Soler getting pulled out. He probably finishes top 10, but 1.
Mm-hmm.
Team Bike Exchange.
This is an interesting one.
It is.
I'm interested in this one too, to hear what you two have to say.
Because they wanted to win, and they didn't. But it was still really impressive what they did for Simon Yates. The other 7 riders can go home. Mikel Nieve was slightly disappointed until maybe the last couple of days, but the other riders can go home quite happy that they did their job.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I guess interesting.
They took. You go.
I know we talked about before how intelligent we are now, looking back on the Giro, compared to when we were when we started, when they were selecting the squad. And we talked about that there's a lot of horsepower in the squad, and there was. But it seems like the squad was almost designed for them having the jersey early and requiring the big boys just to tow the bunch along for 18 stages. A little bit light on in terms of climbing support, especially with Schulze, who was flying at the start, crashing out. Nieve was okay, but he wasn't the level that we've seen him at.
Yeah.
They've lost the one dominant
Okay,
streak they
being
could
generous.
lose that last week. I didn't know Kangert was a handy little climber.
Yeah,
Again,
it's a weird signing
solid.
for Bike Exchange, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like an old Eastern European bloke. Seems a touch off brand.
Probably doesn't Yahoo in the bus as much as the rest of them.
But I think overall, on a serious point, they took the race to the others. They chased when they didn't have to. I thought Michael Hepburn was incredible the last couple of days. He was strong as Schultz. He was putting together a really good Giro until he crashed out. And then Yates, that big stage win, everyone thought, if Burnout has a bad day, Yates is on a super one, maybe things can turn around. But he kind of just didn't quite have it on that last Saturday. But a podium, it's probably a pass. Is it just a pass? Did they want to win? Of course they wanted to win, but was it realistic against such a strong Burnout? How much longer do they persist with Simon Yates? These are all questions that need to be answered, Alex. I know you have some strong opinions. If you want to share them publicly.
I think it's a pass.
Now you're in the media, Alex. You just have to burn the friendships that you have with that team.
Start cutting down. I think the Yates thing's interesting. I find the Yates thing interesting. They've got rid of one, which I think is a good start. They've got one to focus on. GC winner. But can he ever? Are they still trying to win the Tour? I don't know if Yates can ever win the Tour. And if you're going to be a GC team, if you're not going to win the Tour, then it's like a bit like, what are we doing here? The good news is they've got a very unbiased young talent in Lucas Hamilton, who looks like he's heading to the Tour.
Second fiddle to my boy Esteban, though.
You want Esteban?
I love, and it's almost, I love it because it's mediocre, kind of, but Esteban's seen as a hero for this team. Yes, he did an unbelievable stage win that time in the Volta, potentially. I think they should be all in for Lucas. They'll be hunting stage wins. I'm sure Michael Matthews will be on the tour team.
Yeah,
I reckon they should give him full reign to ride his own race, Lucas.
Yeah, it'd be good to see.
We see, Cambo, one final question on Bike Exchange before we give him a rating. We see these kind of teams with these junior prodigies coming through. Bernal, the Pogs, Remco. Max has touched on ageism in sport, but how much longer do you give Yates as the man?
So what is he? He's turning 29 this year.
Which I think Primoz is 29, is he?
I think Primoz is 30.
Yeah.
Maybe 31.
Young in his career length, though.
It's tricky, isn't it, Alex? Because he's a guy who he's just got third at the Giro, which is incredible. He's won the Vuelta. He's got close to winning the Giro a couple of years ago, but I tend to agree. I don't see him winning the Tour de France ever. So at what point do they cut their losses and shift some money elsewhere? Because I'm sure he's getting paid a nice little clip, and he's getting to the wrong side of 30 pretty quickly. So I think maybe it's now that is the time to shift focus and maybe go to some proper youth.
But it'd be great for the brand if they went and chased one of these young Aussies that are climbing so well, like a Stora or a Jai Hindley.
Yep.
I think it's essential for the brand, Max. I think it's essential for the team. Like it's Jerry Ryan's team. It's an Aussie team. They've lost Hagee, lost Rob Power. They've got Lucas there ready to go. But if they lose Lucas, then it's kind of like, well, they got Kangart. to represent the Eastern European countries. Like, if you don't have, I feel like if you don't have an Australian at the helm winning, they've got Michael Matthews back, but he's unfortunately racing in the van era, which doesn't really give him too many opportunities to win. I think Lucas is the man. Get on him.
Yep.
A score?
Yeah, it's a 4.
It's 4?
It's a strong 4. Yep. It's a strong
4. Yep. Team DSM. Like Max touched on, a bit of Australian talent in there. Hindley, Hamilton, Storer. Hindley unfortunately out with some saddle sores about mid-tour, but also wasn't super on the pace. It was just that touch off compared to riding the last time trial in pink last year.
Yeah.
Roman looks like he's settled in.
He settled in. I think we can forget Roman ever challenging for a podium in the future in the Grand Tours. But it was good to see them take the bull by the horns on the Saturday and try something different. Go full gas on the downhill, keep it going through the valley. Bardet didn't have the legs, but 7th on the GC, it's okay, but it's probably a 3 for me.
I love a team that's got an aggressive mindset. But they're a stage-winning team. They showed that in the Tour last year, and they had guys that can win stages like Nicholas Arndt, Cantor, Roche, and I think they all got in a break at some point, but they just couldn't get it done. Bardet was a highlight for me. I enjoyed watching him ride, but it's a 3.
Michael, I just want to touch on Michael Storer's climbing ability. I think he was pretty special in that back end of the Giro, and also Chris Hamo, like he did last year in the Giro, just always being there when he needed to be, especially in that stage where Roman went on the hunt. Turns out they just delivered Caruso to the line to a stage victory.
Was anyone expecting that? Was anyone expecting DSM to randomly put 5 men on the front, Nicholas Roche to be pushing 500 watts to get Romain to attack 60k out? We're all talking about Yates going for a little move, and Roman Bardet does it.
I didn't see it coming, but I'm glad they did it because it made the stage super exciting. Caruso probably won because of it. It's always nice when a team just does a random thing like that and blows the race to smithereens for someone else.
But also, I think it's important because otherwise we would have just seen Ineos just ride to the line. That would have been it.
Yeah.
So I think they get a fair bit of credit for that little move on the last day. Team Quebeca Assos
Would be our next 7.
Well, with Nizzolo finally getting a win.
3 stage wins. Campanats. There's a 3rd.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get who it is.
They got a young guy in the first week.
Schmitty.
It
Yeah.
seems
How
like
many
years ago that
Doesn't it?
Campanats and Smitty were bagging wins.
And Nizzolo as well.
And Nizzolo.
That was ages ago.
And they lost their only hope in Pozzo Vivo. Oh, how sad was that?
Through Cambo's top 10, way out of whack.
Super impressive.
No, good.
Super impressive.
Yeah. I think a 6. 3 stage wins.
Yeah.
That's a 6.
I just love what their team's about. Coming back from Dimension Data, obviously having a bit of a downfall last year and lots of people leaving and whatnot. It's just, I enjoyed watching it.
Yep, I agree. 6 points. Super. And also Nizzolo just getting a win on home turf. With Viviani just looking over, very envious of what he was achieving. Trek Segafredo, Max's man couldn't have caught in there with his mail. The shark not quite where the shark was. And
They weren't going to die trying. They threw everything at it. Ciccone attacking weirdly very early on at weird times. Nibbly trying to get him breaks late. But all of it wasn't really working.
It was pretty. It was a pretty trek tour.
Yes, it was. I was very impressed with Ciccone in the first 10 days, but you could feel that maybe not having done a proper GC before, I was going to catch up with him in the back half, and it did ultimately. And you're right, the Shark coming out of surgery just before the Giro, he was never really going to compete, but his head was still thinking that he could. So overall, it was a bit of nothing in the end.
I'm not sure what the prize money is for most combative rider, but I think Mollema was targeting it. He didn't have the legs ever to finish off in the breakaway, but he kept on getting in there.
Most
You
top tens.
You and I, Max, were quite bullish of Mollema in the pre-show, and he didn't quite live up to what.
Well, it turns out he probably was their best rider, but he just went for the wrong thing.
Yeah. It's probably a 2. It's a 2 for me.
2 just. Ciccone helped him so much.
Ciccone, yeah.
A generous 2.
Yeah. It's a 2.
Where did Mollema? 28th on the GC for Mollema. Last time we checked in, Mollema was helping himself to about 11th or 12th, just based off him being in the breakaway.
I think they all signed out on day 15, Trek Segafredo.
Yeah.
Fetch Wine and Co. just giving them a flat 0 for their performances at the 0.
But have they got anything that wasn't here for the tour? Like that's their 3 best riders: Ciccone, Nibali, and Mollema, isn't it?
Are we missing someone obvious? I mean, Stuyven and
Mads Pedersen.
Mads Pedersen, yeah, but in terms of general. Just quickly, Max, you don't have to name names if this has been the case, but has anyone at the club ever received a 0 from the coaches?
There has been known to be a couple of 0s are easier to get than 7s.
Okay.
And last team, UAE Emirates. Max has been waiting to talk about Gaviria all day.
Yes, I was a fan of how he raced. Might not have the legs. Seemed to have a fair bit of issues with his countryman who was leading him out. I was glad to see him back riding well enough. They had a stage win. The American, what's his name?
Joe Dombrowski.
That was a good win.
And Formolo was. To be honest, I had no expectations. He was in those 30s in my top 38. He was somewhere around 35. But when he rode so well in the first week, I'm like, oh, hang on, this guy could be all right. But then he fell away and couldn't even get in breaks by the end of it.
Yeah. Diego Ulisi had some really good climbing legs in the third week.
He had a day where he finished with the main group.
Yeah. I saw the results initially and I just thought, oh, he must have been in the breakaway and he got caught. But then I ended up watching the last bit of the stage and he was just climbing with the favourites, which was a surprise.
Martinez is looking around. Who have we dropped? Egan. We've dropped them all. Who's still here? Just Diego.
What would you give it? Is it enough for a pass with that Dombrowski stage win? Probably not. It's probably a 3 for me.
We have 3 really prominent Italians in almost every race in Formolo, Conti, and Ulisi, and there was no stage win between them. So it's a 2.
And Gaviria in there too.
Without a Ulisi or Gaviria win, I don't think they can pass. I did enjoy the
pen in a Ulisi stage win at the Giro.
Yeah. I did enjoy the dynamic between Milano and Gaviria just trying to lead each other out.
Is there regions in Colombia that speak different languages?
Maybe some different variations of Spanish, but that one that was funny. The one where he got put into the barriers by his own team.
Yeah.
Then I'm not sure if he thought the finish line was a little bit early when he attacked Caleb.
And
just a tad early.
Gave him a free run at the wheel.
That's what I'm talking about, though. He was prominent, and he was going for points when he clearly wasn't going to win the purple jersey late. I think there was 4 points available with a mountain stage left, and he was going for it. Good on him.
And that's it. That's
Good
the
recap.
Giro. That's the Giro run. Dauphiné started last night. We're heading into the Tour prep. It's almost Tour time. Any last comments on the Giro? Any last talking points you want to bring up?
There's no rest. We're straight onto the Dauphiné, which I'm looking forward to. I'm interested to see how the teams go outside of Ineos in these 7 days. I know Ineos will be strong, but I'd like to see David Gaudu perform. There's some good hype around him. There's a TT in this Dauphiné, so I worry with him with that. But I'd like to see him perform. I'd like to see Jumbo back up there with Seb Kuss. So there's some good things I want to see, just to see if the Giro is going to the Tour, because you want to see it's Rogby, Pog with Thomas and Port there. So it's a cool little thing what's happening in the Tour. So you want to see some guys try and stick it to Ineos here.
Just a couple of closing comments for me on the Giro. Just quickly, I saw on Twitter that Bernal was the first rider since Merckx to have the Tour de France, the Giro, Paris-Nice, and Tour de Suisse on the Palmares. So that's pretty impressive from Egan. And just overall, a little bit underwhelming, the Giro as a whole. We had a couple of good stages. The gravel stage through Tuscany was nice, but I just think it lacked theatre overall for mine.
I stand corrected. We have a Brisbane Lions supporter watching. You said 100, Campbell, but there's just one.
Do you think that that you weren't that impressed with the Giro as a racer's performance? Was that because of Ineos's strength?
It had something to do with it. I definitely think so. A team that strong, and like we said earlier, Martinez being so strong, if Bernal was exposed a little bit more, it could have been a different story. And also having that really high mountain stage shortened didn't help.
Fetch, that's disappointing.
Yeah.
Little closing one for me on the Giro. I did the top 38. I've gone back and had a look at that. I've got to be held accountable to stuff I put out, and I've deleted everyone that got injured or pulled out of the Tour, the Giro. I had a Yates, Bernal, Bennett top 3, so I missed Bennett there, like you missed. Who did you have? Campbell?
Martin. Dan Martin. Yep.
And then I had Almeida and Vlasov 4-5. So it's not a bad little read. I had a miss there. I had Caruso in the top 10, which is handy. I'm not sure how many people would have had that. But I also had the Shark in top 10. I had Van Hook top 10 as well. So there's some misses there. So I've got to be held accountable. I can't wait for the top 38 I put out for the Tour.
Everyone's eagerly waiting for the top 38.
It's a pretty clear 1 to 3. I think Thomas is a clear third selection. Is he? I think he is.
At the moment. We'll know a lot more after this week.
Yeah.
Chris Froome, does he come up for it?
Yeah, he for the first time he finished with the group last night. He didn't lose time last night, so that's a positive.
Did you see the footage of him last night though? He was like out of the group of 40. He was 32nd wheel, just chewing a bit on like a lumpy run into the finish.
But he's been doing a great 3-week camp. Didn't you see the news press?
I don't think it's looking good for Froome. On the Tour as well, we've had some requests to just to go back to basics and recap what is what, the 101 of the Tour de France of cycling. So we might, as well as doing just some lead up previews and whatnot of what's going on as we get through these lead up races. I think we might do a couple of one especially specific podcast just to lay the land of what is what in cycling as well.
Can we schedule that podcast when the teams are official, so we're not speculating for our teams like we do?
Well, we are always the first one out.
Yeah,
No
that
one
is
is-
actually, yeah.
No one is beating us.
So that means, so it's like a bit of a Tom Brown there. We're first out, but we're not getting it right. What's more important?
Yeah.
You've just got to be first, actually. It doesn't matter
You
about
just gotta
getting
be
it right.
first.
Doesn't matter who you hurt in the process.
But based off what we have for the Giro, like Pro Cycling Stats is that in the know now. They pretty much hit the nail on the head.
They normally get it pretty right.
You can
Yep.
afford to go a little bit early.
Big thanks to everyone that's put questions in the chat for tuning in. This will be on the podcast apps and YouTube. Thanks to Matt for supporting the podcast as always. Thanks Max. Thanks Campbell.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, guys, for having me again.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Campbell, for joining us.
Great,
It's
great to have you in. We'll get you back in the studio sometime soon, hopefully, Cambo.
I look forward to it.
Alrighty.